back at infographics. So the next step in our infographic piece is we're going to do an activity. And what this is going to allow us to do is it's going to let you guys sort of just learn in a simpler way how to work with infographics, okay? And that's really, for me, that's the important part, all right? Is really just, this is the test for you guys to mess around with infographics. So I have a video here called the do's and don'ts of infographics that I want you guys to watch after we're done with the presentation. It's quick, it's like 11 minutes. It'll just go over do's and don'ts of infographics, okay? This is the link to what I'm going to go over in a second, which is this piece, okay? And then the files, everything you need are also down here, all right? So you have everything where you're going to need it. So basically, just let me go over the initial specs of this. Excuse me. The infographic activity, all right? You're going to create 6 charts, one of each type from the presentation, which we'll go over in a second, to represent, okay? So the information that you're going to represent is 85% of information transmitted to the brain is visual, 10% is auditory, and 5% is olfactory or smell, okay? You're going to take that information and you're going to create 6 different infographics based on the 6 most popular infographics presentation that I show you shortly, all right? You are only allowed to type the percentages. Okay, so this says 90%. I got to fix that. You're only allowed to type 85%, 10%, and 5%. The rest of this, you've got to show me visually. Okay, and I'll make that adjustment in a second on the text. So it's a 6x6 artboard size, 6 artboards. So in Illustrator, you'll basically create a new project. You'll go in, all right, 6, 6, okay, and you'll add 6 artboards, so that each infographic will be on its own page, just like that, okay? Pretty basic, so that each of these infographics will be on their own page. What you're going to do is you're going to start out with 1 sketch for each chart type. So a total of 6 total sketches, all right? The sketches have to, just like anything else, the sketches have to be approved before you can move on, all right? So that's the work. The work's got to get done in Illustrator. You're going to hand it a PDF in Google Classroom. All right, and that's the little project. Now, back to what an infographic is, okay? So I've put this link in here. This is a really cool site on this is actually where the video came from as well, all about infographics. So this is basically just going to be 13 types of infographics that you kind of want to be creating. So this is kind of our categories. So statistical infographics. As its name applies, this type of infographic incorporates different charts and graphs into the showcase, various statistics. For example, the demographics reported above includes pie charts, pictograms, bar graphs, and a map. This mixed bag of charts and graphs is the best option when you have many statistics, facts, and figures to communicate your audience. So that's the first type. And again, we have a different presentation for the 6 most popular charts. That's what you're going to be working on for your activity. But this is kind of all the information about infographics. So the second one is information or a list. And this is a version of an information or a list, okay? Another common type of infographic is the list-based or the informational visual. This type of long-form graphic is composed mostly of text and doesn't rely as much on graphs, charts, or other visual elements as seen in the colorful infographic above. Here's the infographic above, okay? While the information is enhanced with an attractive color scheme and icons, overall the words are what really drives the message home. So number 3 is the timeline. Whenever you want to show something has evolved over time, and I'll show you this cool one in Photoshop I have, or want to tell a story in chronological order, this type of infographic is the most useful in getting your point across. Timelines can be used for everything from brand stories to resumes to the historical development of a trend, person, or product. They're most effective when they incorporate many different data points spread out across time and are accompanied by images, icons, or other graphic elements. So as you can see, this is the history of Vincent van Gogh, and it kind of has little icons kind of representing that time. And again, infographics are about taking, like a book about Vincent van Gogh and turning it into a visual piece that we can look at it, gain the information much quicker. So the how-to infographic. These types of infographics show the steps involved in creating something. For example, the visual above shows readers how to create a branding style guide. This format is best suited for visualizing how-to articles and the descriptions of any procedure with several instructions to follow. Process. Although the visual format may seem similar to a timeline, it's different in the sense that it refers specifically to the description of a process. This will often showcase a step-by-step process, like we see above in the customer journey. This can also be a process for creating an online course, putting together a business plan, or even the process of making a decision. You might have seen these in like silly magazines where it's like, should I eat hamburger or chicken tonight? And it goes down like yes or no and all that type of thing. So generally in a customer journey map, you want there to be a destination that people actually want to go to, not necessarily, people aren't going to read it if they're not interested in the what's going on in the questions. The comparison. Another common use for infographics is making comparisons between two products. This is also sometimes called the versus, which you'll see this a lot of too. People, ideas, things, events, or places. Besides comparing two products side by side, this type of infographic can also be used to visually contrast and compare seemingly opposing things to reveal similarities, differences, and relative advantages. One of the things that I give you the option to do is cats versus dogs for your infographic project the next week. And that's a verse thing. We are doing comparisons. You're showing things that are similar. Okay. Location. One of the easiest ways to visually communicate trends across a region, local, national, or global, is to use a location infographic. Usually in the form of a map with icons and color-coded regions, this type of visual is ideal for comparing regional and global statistics on a relevant subject that readers care about. For example, one idea could be a map of crime rates across different states, and another could be comparisons of cost of living. This could also be used to show a visual representation of the expansion of a company across the world. So you can see this, just the coronavirus cases, okay? And it's just a color-coded map just explaining. Instead of reading a paragraph about coronavirus cases, not that we want to do that anymore at this point, this is a quick way to understand that, okay? Excuse me, my nose is stuffed up today. Flowchart. A flowchart infographic can be used in a variety of different ways. You can showcase a team heading up a project, like we see above, or an organization team's hierarchy. So, who's at top and how they break down. You can also showcase decisions, processes, and other types of information with the flowchart. These can be easily customized with lines and shapes to create any type of visual flow to share with an audience. So again, rather than read it, you have a visual to look at so you can understand very quickly what's going on. Hierarchical. This type of chart organizes information according to levels, whether it be level of importance, level of difficulty, income level. This is similar like, the food pyramid, all right? You've seen that before? That's an infographic. Although most commonly seen in the shape of a pyramid, as in the example above, this type of infographic can also be seen in the form of an organizational chart. The key function of this type of visual is to compare the different levels and show the relation between each of them. A single chart. As the name implies, single chart infographics simply use one chart type as a focal point of the data visualization. In comparison with statistical infographics, this one performs much better in terms of shares and views on social media. It's because it's easier. In a study of more than 16,000 infographics conducted by Visually, it was found that the top shared infographics were all easily understand, simple, and not very text-heavy, which would make sense. In line with this trend, the top 3 most popular infographics were flowcharts, single charts, and a list-based infographic. 11, visualize numbers. This is kind of the real bread and butter of this, taking a big number and making it visual. We've all seen these kinds of infographics floating around the internet, the ones with various stats and figures visualizing using large numbers, icons, or other graphic elements. The purpose of this type of infographic is to simply provide a number or a set of numbers in a much more visual appealing way than within a paragraph of text. All right. Anatomical. This type of infographic uses visual metaphors such as the human body to display information. In this example, we're using a visual of a man working at a computer to display the anatomy of an information designer. Alternately, you can make use of less figurative anatomical infographics by using representations of objects and displaying the parts that make up their anatomy, such as the anatomy of a perfect website or the anatomy of an online presentation. 13, a visual resume. These are really big right now because infographics are so big. You see a lot of resumes. You guys will be designing resumes with Mr. Nagel. All right, and these have become really kind of big now. Many job candidates have resorted to turning their text-based Word resumes into visually captivating infographics. Hannah Morgan, author of the Infographic Resume, advises using visuals with a purpose, such as charts that highlight key statistics and accomplishments. She especially advises using these types of infographics in industries that are most open to non-traditional resumes: marketing, advertising, graphic design, high-tech startups. Okay, so this, I've left a link here as well as a PDF for all of this. This just gives you an idea of the sort of categories of infographics that are out there, okay? So that's there for you. Now, what you're going to be doing is you're going to create 6 charts, one of each type for the presentation. So here's where these come from. So you have this file as well. These are the 6 most popular charts used in infographics. So you're going to create one of these, okay? So 6 total for this data, All right. So the first is a pie chart. Pie charts appear quite often in infographics as they are quite useful with showing percentages of a whole. All right. So here's a pie chart. Now, you can get really creative with pie charts. You can see the different ways that they use them. All right, vertical, horizontal, all kinds of lines, pulling data out, using icons within. So they don't have to just be the normal, boring, simple pie chart, okay? Pie charts come in a lot of styles, and you really want to take a look at all the different styles that you're going to want to try to create with a pie chart, okay? I'm really looking for creativity out of this activity. The bar chart. In bar charts, the length or height of the bar is equal to the quantity within the category. So you're looking at bar charts, how you're going to compare it. Now, again, these aren't all boring bar charts. This kind of is, but all the rest of these have some interesting elements, interesting colors, interesting way to show the data, okay? And so you have number one being the pie chart, number two being the bar chart. The third one is a line chart. Line chart is used to visualize a trend in data over time. It can also be used to compare change among groups over a period of time. All right, so again, look at the different ways that line charts are used. Okay, most of the time they all generally have the same thing where they have the unit and the time over, okay, or the numbers, this particular money versus months, all right, so you can kind of see how it functions, all right, so you can sort of understand where you've got 3 pieces, so you're going to have 3 points on your line chart, okay. Number 4 is a bubble chart. Bubble chart, as a variation of a scatter chart, has 3 numeric data dimensions. X, Y axes, okay? The data represented by bubbles. So basically, you can see how this functions. This is kind of a really basic bubble. What this does is this allows a user to say, okay, if I'm looking at sports, 45% basketball is the largest percentage. All right, so I can do that without having to read it. If these numbers weren't there, I would realize that basketball is the biggest, football is the next, tennis, you get the idea, okay? So that's what a bubble chart does. You can also combine it with the setup of a line chart. A ring chart. Ring charts are extremely useful graphs in infographic design. You can always find ring charts in infographics. So a ring chart is very similar to a pie chart, except if you look at the pie chart itself, the pieces in the pie chart represent the size of the data, whereas in the ring chart, it's a little different, okay? So in some cases, it represents it. This, you notice that it basically has it even. It just talks about marketing and the things that are in there. So ring charts are similar to pie charts, but have a lot of different variations that are a lot different than a pie chart, okay? So these pieces do represent the size, whereas some of them don't. This is very common these days, is using these lines, again, to really be able to see. Now, the thing that you have to watch out for is this exactly 68% of this circle? I don't know, and it doesn't have to be, okay? So you can stay away from the literal part of it, all right? 50% you can go with because you know it's 50%, but these are probably not exactly what they need to be, okay? An icon chart. Icon chart is the chart made of an icon, all right? It's a freestyle one. So basically now you're taking all the different stuff and you're using icons to chart out the information. So 69% of women versus 59% of men. See how that's done? Okay? So you're going to do one of each of these. So you're going to take this data, 85% of information, 10%, 5%, and you're going to create a chart, okay, for each one of these. So you're going to take a pie chart. There's the bell. You guys missed the bell? All right, here's the pie chart. So you're going to do a pie chart with this information. Then you're going to do a bar chart with this information. Kind of get the idea, okay? The first step is you're going to need to do visual research, and then you're going to do sketches. One sketch for each type of chart, all right? And if you have questions about that part of it, okay, you can go through, do a little visual research, right, and then start to sketch out kind of what you're thinking. If you want to do more than one sketch, you certainly can, but I'm only looking for one sketch of each, okay?